Hey guys, got in another red dot to take a look at. This one is coming from Foxarmy and the model is the FXA10. But I figured we'd do a quick unboxing, go over like all the features and specifications, get it mounted to something, get to the range, and then we'll get some thoughts on it. So first thing is it does come in this really nice hard shell case here. I know that you're not buying the case, but I always like when manufacturers put kind of expensive items in here to protect them. So let's see what we got here. So obviously a lens cleaning cloth, looks like a user manual. So we have the red dot itself here, and there is a cover on it. Let's pop that off. And we'll go over that in detail, obviously, in a bit. Looks like we have a Picatinny adapter here. So you can mount the red dot on here and then put this on a pick rail. Looks like we have a couple of tools and a couple screws in that bag. And then a bunch more screws that are labeled for the different sizes. I want to real quickly show you guys some of the information here just in case I don't go over everything and you're interested in knowing about that. So before we get into all the specs and everything, I'm just going to kind of quickly glance over everything. I always kind of like to look for quality control issues on these brands that I've never worked with before, just kind of seeing if there's like sealant or glue that's coming out where the lens is there. And I don't see any like major imperfections or anything. I look at the anodization to see if there's like scuffs or if it's uniform all the way around. And overall everything looks pretty decent on this one. So the first thing to let you know about the FXA10 is it is designed for the RMR or SRO footprint, which is like your Hollisons, I think the 407C maybe and the 507C, but it's RMR footprint. The lens is multi-coated, which helps reduce glare, and obviously you have like the red appearance from this side, but you won't have that from the opposite side. It has a parallax-free design, which basically allows you to acquire your targets much faster. Also has unlimited eye relief, so if your pistol does have a rail on it, you can really mount it anywhere, or you can mount it obviously to a rifle anywhere along your Picatinny rail. This does have shake awake technology, which a lot of red dots are going that way nowadays. So basically after like 15 minutes of not using it or not being moved, this thing automatically shuts itself off, and it does that to basically save the battery, which that battery is supposed to have a 50,000 hour battery life. But then with any type of movement, whether you grab it out of your gun safe or off of your wall or whatever it might be at the range, the dot will automatically come back on for you. And then again, when you're not using it, 15 minutes later, it goes back off again. And speaking of that battery, it is top loading. So once you mount this to your pistol or rifle or whatever, you don't have to remove it to change out the battery. And it's a 1632. It is IPX7 waterproof rated, so you can fully submerge this, I think up to a meter for over 30 minutes. So if you're shooting in the rain or really humid conditions, this will be just fine. You don't have to worry about it getting wet at all. Also 1500 G's of shock recoil resistance, so you should be able to put it on just about anything. It has 7 settings. 5 of them we're going to be able to see probably in the camera. 2 of them are going to be night vision. We obviously have our elevation adjustment, windage adjustment, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but the whole thing is constructed out of aluminum. Grab you guys some unofficial measurements here on it. We're probably like 1.75 inches in length. Total width just over 1 inch. Total height also right about 1 inch. And I believe that the lens is 24 millimeters by 17 millimeters. Weight is 1.6 ounces. So before we get into seeing what that dot looks like, I did want to show you guys that they do brand the cover here, which I always think is a nice touch. And also, before I get the dot on, I want to show you guys that there is a little bit of a blue effect to that lens. You can see over here it's a little bit whiter than what it is there. It's not much, but there is just a little bit. So to turn the red dot on, you can hit either of these buttons here. So let's hit that, and we can see that there. Yeah, I might do it on the table versus that so we get a better idea of it. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and then we'll kind of go from there. So that's going to be our brightest level, and then let's go down from there. So that should technically be what, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then the next one should be off. Yep. I can still see a little faint spot right there though. See that right there? And then these ones should be night vision. I can still see a little dot though right there even. So it does not get any dimmer than that right there. And I can still see that with the naked eye. So let's go back up through them one more time. There's definitely a nice jump in those. And that does get really bright. And again, technically you don't ever have to like shut it off, because after 15 minutes of inactivity, it will shut off on its own. But if you want to, you can hit the minus sign for 3 seconds. Just keep holding it in and it should shut off. There we go. So I'm going to be putting this on a pistol, but more and more people are starting to run this style of red dot on their rifles just because of how lightweight they are. And basically you would take your same mounting screws and put them through there down into the Picatinny mount, and then you would just mount this to your rifle. But as it is, I'm going to be putting it on this. And just so that YouTube knows, adding this red dot to this pistol does not modify this pistol in any way, and I'm working with a completely safe firearm here. If your pistol is designed for an RMR, this will literally just sit right on there and mount right to it. I have to use these adapter plates, so I'll have to figure out which one goes for it. So it looks like for my G3C, if I want to run the RMR, I got to use plate number 2. Alright, so I have plate 2 on there, and this should just line up here, and then we'll get our screws in there. So just to let you guys know, the screws that Foxarmy provides will work fine if your pistol does not take a mounting plate. Mine obviously does, and these are not long enough to then go down into my slide, so I'm gonna have to use my Taurus ones. Alright, so got that mounted. That's what that looks like on there. Sticks out just a little bit past the slide. Not much, but again, this is a fairly small gun, so any of your compact to full sizes, it's gonna fit on there just fine. And then let's see if the cover fits. Yeah, because I've had others that the cover won't go down once it's mounted, which kind of defeats the purpose of the cover. But alright guys, out the range here this morning with the Foxarmy red dot. Going to put 50 rounds through it, make sure that there isn't any flickering of the dot, make sure it doesn't shut off, make sure that the lens holds up, stuff like that. And then I'll give some thoughts. Alright guys, I'm back from the range. Want to share some of my thoughts with you. Let me first say that this is the first time I've ever worked with this company, so I can only give you feedback on the one sample that was provided to me, which has been really good so far. I did not have any type of flickering of the dot did not shut off, everything was flawless at the range with it. It only took me a few shots to get sighted in, and then it held 0 for the next 45 shots or so. And again, this is not a long-term review. I only put 50 shots total through it. But what I can tell you is that my time with it, it does seem like it is very well built. The shroud up here is very thick, very solid. The glass seems well protected. And speaking of that, the glass is very clear. No issues whatsoever with that. I like that it does have the shake awake technology. I don't know if I mentioned the size of that dot. It's a 3 MOA. I don't know if the microphone will pick this up, but your adjustments for windage and elevation, they're audible and they're palpable, so you can feel it and hear it. Which is always nice to have that. Another thing that I think is a real positive from Foxarmy is their warranty. If you guys want to read all of that, you can, but basically they have a lifetime warranty on it. So let me quickly talk about some of the things I thought were negatives with this red dot. First thing is you cannot co-witness it with your factory sights. I think even if you had suppressor height sights, that it would still be difficult to co-witness it with them. There's no notch at all in this, and this thing is really tall. Like I almost cannot see my front sight at all when I'm looking through it. And the big negative to that is if your battery were to fail, which would probably happen at some point, you almost just have to kind of point and pray. Like you really cannot see that front sight through there at all. Another thing to mention, I'm not necessarily going to say it's a negative because you know it when you purchase it, but there is only the one reticle. A lot of other red dots in this same price range will give you like crosshairs, circle dot, just dot by itself, combination of all of them. So this one only gives you just the single dot. One other thing that I mentioned earlier in the video is that the screws that I had to use, well, the screws that came with it were a little bit too short to go down into my slide here because I have to use that adapter plate. And therefore, I end up having to use the ones from Taurus, which as you can see, it covers up the battery door now. So if I need to change out that battery, I do have to actually take this off, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a top-loading battery. So I do wish that the screws were a little bit longer that they included. And probably the last con that I have, I like the fact that it has shake awake. Almost everything nowadays does. However, the time for this to shut off is 15 minutes. It's a little bit long. Most companies are between 2 to 5 minutes anymore on that. And it does just drain the battery that much more. And then obviously the brighter that you have your dot, the faster that's going to drain your battery. But I would like to see that shake awake time to shut off reduced a little bit. So I just started using pistol red dots maybe a year or so ago. So I'm not an expert by any means, but I can tell you that using a red dot versus your iron sights, you can acquire your target so much faster. You shoot with both eyes open, and your follow-up shots are on target much faster. Like you're always going to have muzzle rise, and then having the dot get you back down on your target just so much faster. So at the time of me recording this video, these are coming in at $101 with a 10% off coupon available, so just over $90 for them on Amazon. They've also provided me a discount code. I don't know if that code can be used on Amazon or if it's to be used on a website purchase, but I'll leave an Amazon link, I'll leave website link, I'll leave the discount code, so if anybody's interested in finding out more information, it'll all be down below. So yeah guys, that's going to be it on this one. If you have any questions or comments on the FXA10, please leave them down below. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it.